Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? What's going on? Happy Sunday here. Give me a couple seconds and minutes here to get started and launched up. Okay. Okay. What's going on, guys? It's on. Get sorted shortly. Give everyone a few minutes to log on in. This is the first study session of the new year, so looking forward to it. So I am doing this as a free education session across all social channels. So let's give everyone a minute to log in from all different platforms here, and then we will get started. Pretty excited for this session, as I always am. Do hours and hours of prep time for these just to make sure you guys get a lot of information and content out of it. So just give us a few seconds here in minutes, and we will get it going once everyone starts to get on. Appreciate it, everybody. The link would be here. Just going to share it with folks so you guys have it. Okay. Okay, there we go. One second. Awesome. Yep. What's up, Jaheim? How are you, man? Happy Sunday. Happy weekend. What's going on? Awesome. Let's give everyone a few minutes to log in here, guys. I know technology is sometimes difficult from all different platforms, so we'll just give it a couple minutes here, and we'll get things started here. Got a very exciting session coming up. Bunch of different topics, covering a lot of beginner topics in terms of charting, price action, technicals, etc. Going to cover some mega caps things. Going to talk about what I look for, what to look for in a day trade setup. Not talking about swing trading or anything like that today. Mostly day trade. So we'll be covering a lot of things on that. And then just markets in general, as always. Every few months, always like to take a look at the technicals. Although there's not much to look at technicals, we're at all-time highs. So things have been pretty crazy the last few weeks, and we've seen a lot of craziness. So going to go through some of that stuff. But other than that, pretty exciting session, full slate. About 45 minutes of prep time here, guys. So 45 minutes, then a possible Q&A session at the end. Any questions you guys want to ask about me, about the markets, I can answer. Happy to try my best to answer all of them. If I can't answer it, I will try and go back, do some research, and try and get back to you. But we'll try and keep those questions towards the end of the session. Awesome. If you guys want to write in the comment chat on the sidebar, if you're a first-time joiner, feel free to just use that sidebar comments along the presentation. But we'll kind of jump into things shortly here as more folks tend to jump on a couple minutes late, and then we'll jump into it. Okay. Awesome. Okay, without further ado, I'll jump into it as folks are jumping in, and we will get into it. Awesome. So first off, happy 2024. Haven't spoke to a lot of folks on here. I haven't done a New Year's video yet, so I'm pretty excited. I've prepped, as I mentioned, to a lot of folks. I've prepped for hours today on this, and I kind of thought, what are some of the topics that I think people want to see? And a lot of it comes down to, if you guys have seen my videos over the last 3, 4, 5 years, of posting. A lot of it comes down to price action, technical analysis, liquidity, volume trading. So a lot of those topics are, I think, topics you really need to sort of indent in your head. That's sort of how I trade, and sort of look for good setups, look for poor setups, etc., to take advantage of. And sort of that's what we're going to focus on today. So February 4th, 2024, some of the topics we're going to cover today is, what is price action? You'll see me talk about it and post about it all day long. It's sort of a thing I focus on most, and I'm going to discuss sort of my definition of it as we get into the presentation. Second topic today is technical analysis / price action on the mega cap technology names. We've seen some ferocious sort of cycles and sort of big gap ups to the upside, specifically on actually Friday's trading action. So I'm going to talk through some of the sort of price action on these, right? Was it weak? Was it strong? What did you see? And I'm going to kind of look through that, and we're going to look at the charts, where things can go. I use technicals as a way of sort of an education on where things can go past that. Can they go forward that? Is there support or resistances? It gives me more of a sort of conviction and an idea if I end up taking a trade on some of these names. So I'm going to walk through some of that. And then, as always, going to take a short dive into the sort of the SPY QQQ, where a lot of the sort of institutional retail, where a lot of liquidity happens daily in the sort of the OPEX, ODT world. You get a ton of, 50, 70% of daily volumes are traded on these indexes. So they're always good to follow, get a sense of where markets are going, where they might be headed, right? You always want to predict where maybe things can go. So we're going to look through some of that. Third topic today, guys, what I'm looking for in a day trade setup. And this won't be anything really options related. This is going to be more equity focused. So, the three things in my criteria, I'm going to talk through some of those. And these are the sort of the three must-haves when I look to take a day trade setup. I think you guys are going to be pretty, you'll learn a ton here in this aspect, because it's going to maybe help you minimize a lot of losses going forward, or any slippages if you guys are oversizing, or even some of the small accounts where you can get in and out with great liquidity. So I'm going to talk through some of that stuff. And then examples of some 5-minute price action candlesticks that I focus on intraday, like how I'm looking to maybe take advantage of a trend. And I'll talk through that. And then at the end, guys, after the sort of 30 to 40 minutes here, we're going to do a Q&A session, and we will sort of jump into that. And any questions you guys have for me that you want to ask, or anything specific or anything non-specific, happy to sort of answer that to the best of my abilities. Quick disclaimer, obviously, I'm Spud from Spud Zone. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, I do not trade anyone's money. I am a retail trader. I trade my own money. Please obviously trade at your own risk. No one here is a licensed provider or anything like that. You can see the disclaimer below for further insights. And then we're at the end here, we're going to actually just jump into sort of some of the earnings I'm watching this week. So I'll jump into that later. But first off, I want to talk through quickly for a minute or two, like, what is price action? And I think this is really important because a lot of people have different definitions of price action. So for me, like, what price action means is a buyer and seller, what are they willing to pay in a dollar amount into a specific equity option or ETF index, whatever it may be, into that entity, like the dollar amount going in, and then where is the price and sort of purchase. And what I mean by that, as we just go down to, is how does it look on a chart? Okay. And so, like, I want to look at, like, we're going to start with Meta platforms, just for an example of what a strong price action looks like, right? So Meta had a crazy quarter growth, I think 25% quarter growth over from Q4, I think from Q3 or Q4 of last year to this year. They're doing their first ever dividend. It was just sort of a blowout in all expectations, and sort of everyone it was just a huge blowout. The gap, the stock gapped up 17-18% pre-market overnight as well. And then what I mean by strong price action is it actually held the next day. And did it not hold? It actually gapped up further at 9:30, and it finished like almost near the highs of days. And when you're sort of looking at an equity, right, and you're thinking about trading it, right, what do I look for? What do I look for? I look for things that are really strong or really weak. And for this example, this stock held up the entire day on huge volumes, which basically showed you that no one was willing to sell this down, but actually the opposite, everyone was willing to buy this up after the current 20% gap up. So to me, in my head, I'm either thinking, okay, this may have more room next week. And then where do we go next week? Is there a 500 level? Is that a mental threshold, right? We closed at, like, what was it, 473? Like, is this next step 500 taps before maybe things get a little bit choppier? my guess is it probably heads a bit higher next week. And so we sort of see this major gap up here on after the earnings on Thursday night into Friday. And then at the bell, for a lot of new traders, I like to use the 5-minute interval. So if you come down here, this is the 5-minute sort of candlestick interval. And why I use this is probably really this is probably a really good thing for price action. What I mean is a lot of folks will use all these indicators and all this mumbo jumbo stuff. I actually use 2 things. 1, candlesticks. 2, VWAP. And so when I use that and when I do that, I'm focusing on, okay, is a stock or equity holding above VWAP or is it trading well below it? If typically when it's trading well below it, it's sort of a bearish intraday price action. It means there's not a lot of bidding or buying being done to get back over VWAP, which is like the average purchase price of that share at that get, right? So we want to see stocks trending strong above that. If you're a long, right? If you're short a stock and it just keeps getting below VWAP and keeps falling, that's great. Like that's really good for a short because that means it can continue coming down. So that's what VWAP's typically used for in a day trading sense for a lot of folks. Typically, why I use the 5-minute is for various reasons. I don't use a 1-minute or 30-minute, not for day trading. When I'm looking at a larger picture of a tape, right? So if I'm looking at the tape over multiple days or multiple weeks, I'll look at the 1-hour chart and then the daily, weekly. So if you're looking at it like a swing trade, you want to see the strong tape, right? The strong price action, but over like multiple days, right? Or multiple weeks. But during the day, I want to see the 5-minute. Why? Because 1 minute's too quick. I always say like you can basically have like almost like a heart attack reading like a 1 minute. Like it's so stressful. Big order comes in, buy side, okay, it's going up. Sell side, boom, it gets rejected. Like 5-minute gives you a really good sense of like where things may go and where the volume picture looks like, where the range looks like, right? So that's price action. I like to do the 5-minute, right? So like if we look at Meta 5-minute, right out of the gate at 9:30, we went up. Then we had a big flag here, big volume candle, right? And then it sort of just came down a bunch, a lot of dips sort of soaked in, tons of dip buyers soaked it. And then the next 5-minute, look at that, it gapped up 1%. So even if you missed the entire move the night before, which was about 17, 18%, and then you even was like, okay, maybe we fade at the bell all the way down, right? Maybe we fade and reject and just, it was kind of a liquidity trap, and it wasn't, right? It was big volume come up for another percent. If you missed, you guys, okay, now we're above the pre-market high in here. Okay, if I wanted to ride on a trend, right? The trend was clearly positive on this name. You didn't have to know anything about it. Just if you traded price action and momentum, you could jump in here, ride the next 1.5% up. Then it consolidates here. It rips up another sort of full percent. So you could almost make 2 full percentage points in just 15 minutes of trading. And that's just equity. I can't even imagine what an option contract ran just in these 15 minutes of trading. If you're trading the ODs, I mean, maybe this ran 100, 150%, maybe larger, depending on the IV spreads and the premiums. But, if you're trading next week, maybe this ran 30, 40, 50%. So there was tons of opportunity just in this 15 minutes alone if you play the above pre-market trend line, right? Which is right here, right? It broke this little plane we had. It was sort of consolidating all morning. Bang, get above it. New buyers come in. Momentum takes us higher. And then, okay, you're like, okay, does it dip maybe after that? No. So then after this huge move from 455 all the way up to 475 in just 20 minutes, that's a $20 move on a $1.4 trillion stock. That's mayhem. Then it actually holds here, right? So then that tells you, wow, the price action on this stock is absolutely incredible today, right? It's not even dipping. Any dips get bought up. And we continue to break out to sort of new highs as it goes. Consolidates 15, 20, 30 minutes, breaks out to an all-time high, sort of new highs in here. Right? Now, if we want to take a look at price action, this is still on topic number 1. Let's take a look at the weekly chart price action, okay? Because this is really important. And you're seeing a lot of these types of breakouts in this market. And not many folks over the last 20, 30 years are used to trading these types of breakouts. We've had 2020, everything went down. 2021, a lot of things went down. 2022, 2020, everything went down, came back up, right? In 2021, we saw new highs. 2022, everything came back down, right? 2023, everything moonshotted back up. So we've had just ups and downs, big trend moves, 20, 30% on indexes alone in each of those moves up and down that folks aren't used to really trading the trend breakouts. But in this sense, at Meta, trend was sort of your friend. And this was all-time highs in here at 2021 back in September, right? This spot right in here. And now when we broke out of it on the weekly chart, if you were just playing momentum and you had no idea earnings was even here, didn't even care about earnings, like just from a technical standpoint, once it sort of broke out of that all-time highs, there's no technical saying we can stop here. And I also think that was sort of part of the move that we saw last week, which is just an absolute giant flag of 171 million shares to the upside here, going from all the way from 380 to 480, $100 move on $1 trillion stock. So I don't think I've ever seen this kind of move. I believe I read an article that it was the largest move ever for a mega cap stock in the stock market. I think the last one was in the 1980s or 1990s with Amazon, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But I believe the last biggest move in market cap was Amazon. I mean, the amount of market cap value this brought in just that Friday was just absolutely insane. So, but there was a lot of readings previous. I did not trade this name at all, but I'm just showing you from a technical standpoint how you can learn from it. So that's Meta. Let's talk through, that was the first, what I mean by price action in the sense of a day trade price action, in the sense of a swing price action, how to identify a strong price action. Okay. Second thing I want to jump into here, guys, is the technical analysis piece on the mega cap tech names. We'll go through each one of these three, and then we'll jump into the indexes. The later half of the session, guys, I think you guys will find a lot of value right after this piece in sort of what I look for in my trading criteria. Obviously, everyone trades differently, but this is what I look for. This is what has helped me become really successful over the years. And I'm going to give some examples, and then we'll go through Q&A. But let's jump into we did Meta, so let's jump into Amazon, right? So let's look at a technical, sort of chart here, right? Amazon's sort of in this range between the all-time highs and the breakout over 140 for me. And so I'm looking at the weekly chart. We have, there is some resistance here around 170-ish, 171, 172. So do we hit that all-time highs retest, which is 184, 185? If the market continues to go higher, I think Amazon probably will go up and retest this area. Where it goes from there, obviously, no one has an idea. But technically, there's a gap fill to the 184, 185 spot. So if these mega caps continue to be bullish, keep an eye on that level. Especially if you're still long trying to trade that area, you have a whole level in here to fill. Another 170, another another like 8, potentially another 7-10% move in here. Before maybe we start to get some choppiness or some resistance in here. So that's Amazon. That's technically, it does have a downside fill to about the 130s, 140s. So keep an eye on Amazon. That's technical, right? These are all technical analysis based on chart readings on where things have gone, where things have faded from, right? So last Amazon move stopped at 184, 185, guys, and it dropped to the lows of 81. So, that's a big, big range move. Let's look at Apple. So now Apple's in a different boat. So Apple, guys, has had extremely bearish price action to start the year, while Meta, Microsoft, and other market cap stocks have had extremely bullish. So Apple and Tesla have been in the bearish camp. The first 2 days of the stock market opening in 2024, we've seen multiple analysts come out and downgrade the stock, downgrade price targets, downgrade earnings. Apple had its first positive quarter just by revenue beat of 2%. It's been negative revenue for the last 4 quarters. Finally, it got positive by 2%. And the P on this stock is over 30. So people are expecting major growth from this company. And quite frankly, the last 5 quarters, they haven't grown at all. And they've actually had negative earnings. So it's quite funny to see what the stock trading at this level while it's actually not doing anything fundamentally. So I don't know if there's a big reset coming for Apple. As you can recall, Apple never had a huge reset as Meta and Tesla and all those names did. But there are a lot of analyst price targets up there down to 160s. I think technically we could see this fill again down. I'm going to talk through the daily charts and technicals. So Apple in the beginning of the year hit the 180 mark, bounced, okay? A couple weeks ago, it hit the 180 mark again, bounced, okay? And then Friday was a huge move, hit the 179, 180 mark again, guys, and look at this green flag with a big volume. So that could have been the bottom again, and we may be uptrend back to the 195, 200 level. So keep an eye on Apple. This is a big flag. I don't know if options or ODTs were a cause of that, and the market just wanted to go higher Friday. This could pull back to about 180, 182 on, tomorrow or the next day as people sort of digest the numbers. But technically down here, if the 180 breaks on Apple, we're sort of in like a free fall down to the 170, 175 mark. And I think that's where maybe I'd look to take a stab for a trade. If this ever hits like 168, 172, that would flush out all this chasing money up in here, and you get a real nice flush in here. That could be a potential trade. But, over 180 here, it doesn't look too great. Bulls are trying to hold this line though, so keep an eye on the 180 trend line, because if we start to break below 180 over the next couple days or weeks, this could be a nice short trade down into the 170. So keep an eye on it. There hasn't been a lot of buying interest on the name. All-time highs are around the 190, so we're not that far away from it, probably 5 to 8%. But this is an example of bearish price action that we've seen to start the year, right? Down, up, full fade again. So you're seeing more sell side volume than actual buy side volume to start the year, which is never a good sign if you're sort of a long. You'd like to see the opposite, as you've seen on Microsoft and Meta, right? So that's a good example. Then I want to discuss the indexes, all right? So QQQQ, let's talk through this. As I mentioned, a lot of traders over the past 10 or 20 years are not used to sort of trading these breakout setups, right? We've had a really choppy last couple years. And so if you look at this, the all-time highs of the QQQs back in 2021, before we saw the massive fade from 400 to basically 250, we had an all-time high in this area, right? QQQ broke that, and look what happened. As a momentum trader, once it broke, technically, look how strong of a gap up that was on an index. This is a weekly chart, so keep in mind these are 5 days, sort of 5-day trendline charts, right? So you have a weekly chart here of a 3% gap up once it broke this level. Same thing. This is a momentum technical trade. You're trading a breakout. Once it broke out of here, look, it's been say goodbye. I mean, this thing has just been huge green candles to the upside. Is it ready to be shorted yet? I probably don't think so, unless some type of negative catalyst hits the market in the next couple of days or weeks. This thing just continues to look strong. I mean, it breaks down and then it just gaps up double. So, I mean, this QQQ has been absolutely on fire. Obviously, a lot of the mega cap, tons of AI hype. I mean, it just continues to go, and most folks just continue to bet against it. That's also probably a reason it continues to go up. So, keep an eye on that. That all-time high level, previous spots, about 400, 390, 400. If you get below that, I think maybe I'll get some trouble back into the 370s, 380s. But for now, right now, it's trading above the previous all-time highs. You always want to look at what the previous resistance were, because then when things start to come down over the weeks or months or years, guys, those previous resistances will now need to be tested as previous supports. So, and then I'm going to sort of talk through that when you walk through sort of some small cap stuffs, but we'll start with SPY. I'll go through that again. Same type of chart, hasn't gapped up as much as the tech names have. But sort of these were some of the last resistance putts and components. Sort of once SPY broke out of that 460, 470 trend line, we've shot up to 496. Now, traders, I'm sure everyone's talking about this key level of 500. Does SPY get there? Most of the time on the way upside, and you have those sort of mental thresholds, you get there. Same on the downside, you overshoot. So I do think you might get a blow through at 500, maybe even over 510. Who knows what happens? Then maybe you could get a fade back to 490s, 480s, and then maybe end of year get a final push back to the 5s. So keep an eye on that. You could see just a blast off here to 510s and then sort of maybe reshort back to 490s. That could be an idea. So we'll see sort of what happens on the SPY. But this has been a pretty exciting move to the upside as well. Just not as crazy as QQQ with the more sort of beta speculation tech trades, which are sort of those QQQ NASDAQ ideas. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at from technicals. Everything's above all-time high, so it's really hard to have a technical reading in here. It's not in a choppy zone. Things are pretty clean right now to the upside. And if you're a trend trader playing the long side, you just kind of trade it till the trend breaks. And right now that trend's been to the upside with extreme strength. So that's what we look for sort of when we're watching that. We're going to jump into sort of what I'm looking for from a day trade perspective. So I think what's really important here is a lot of folks like, what do you look for? And so I think this is the most important part of today's session for me. Obviously, a lot of folks want to learn about price action, technicals, and how to read charts, because I think that's like 90% of trading. I really do. Once you start to be really comfortable and kind of feel where things are at, as I always say, when you're like trading, right, you can look at the monitors. And this comes with time. This comes with experience, years of experience. But when you spend so many hours reading charts and watching things trade, you can feel through the monitors, feel through your phone, however you're trading, you can feel the price action. Does it feel heavy? Is it selling hard down to the downside? Do you see sort of sellers sort of taking over that tape and sort of just pushing it down? Or are you seeing buyers just fly in and just FOMOing and chasing and pushing it higher and pushing it? You can sort of feel those two. And when you can feel that certain direction, right? That sort of range percentage to the upside or range percentage to the downside, that is when you can take advantage of a larger trend move, right? That's when you can jump in and jump out and sort of take your profits and sort of make moves from that. No one needs to be a superhero. A lot of these analysts on the street, they all try to be superheroes, call tops, call bottoms, and all this. Just follow the price action. Let the price action dictate the market movements, and your job is to just scalp or make some money off the top. As a day trader, that's how I say every day. My job is I just want to make some money in a trend up or down. If it's shorting to zero, great. I'd love to make some money on the way down. If it's going to the moon, I'd love to make some money on the way up. I'm not here to do anything else. And so if you can start to think like that emotionally and mentally and say, the market's a huge, huge C, you're just a little minnow in the small C, and you're just trying to sort of stay alive and sort of take advantage of different trends that are happening in the marketplace. And once you sort of get that mentality, I then focus that into day trading. And so how am I day trading equities? 3 things I'm looking for in our criteria. And this also applies to small caps, sort of med caps. In the med caps for me are sort of like a 1-2 billion market cap to like a 15-20 billion market cap, about 10-15 billion market cap for med caps. And large caps are sort of, for me, anything 20 billion market cap plus is sort of a large cap trader for me. And so how I look for that, right, is 3 different things. 1, liquidity. And what I mean by liquidity, guys, is not just volume, but the dollar amount traded. If I buy a stock at $1, right? If I buy a stock at $1, how much volume is trading at $1? Excuse me. How much volume is trading at $1, right? Is there a ton of, let's just say there's 5 million shares being bought at $1, and there's only, not that much being bought at 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, and it keeps going up, right? So that means there was a ton of interest at $1, right? Ton of volume there, a lot of dollar per share. That would show support. That would show strong price action at $1, right? Vice versa. If you're seeing 5 million shares get slammed at $1 and the stock's going down to 99 cents, 98, 97, just keeps going lower, there's a big seller at $1, or there was a big seller at $1 and the stock wants to go lower. Right? So your job is to sort of look at the liquidity, the volume of things, where things are being traded, the dollar amount, right? So when I'm looking at a quick intraday trade, right? There's news out on a stock, right? How do I know if it's going to go up or down, right? Well, you want to see the news. You want to see the price action when it first comes out, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of trading. Is there a ton of buying interest? Does it continue to go up? Is there a 2, 3, 4 green candle move to the upside that, I could jump in here and maybe make a couple moves on the next couple candles to the upside, and I can get out with profits, right? Same thing. Bad news comes out in a stock. It's going down. It's trickling down. It continues to go down. I could jump in short on this, and I could cover maybe 5, 10, 15% lower, which brings me to my next point, right? That's liquidity. That's sort of volume. The next thing, this is the big thing for day trading, and a lot of people don't understand this. And when I try to explain this, a lot of folks kind of don't get it. But for me, range gap percentage. Now, people are probably like, what the hell is that? If you're a new trader, you might also be thinking like this presentation is a little too, if it is, feel free to shoot me a DM or tag me. Like, happy to explain some of the sort of the technical aspects to how I look at things. But I try and make it really simple for everyone, whether you just started trading yesterday or whether you've been in, our Spud Zone community for 5 years. So I try to look at that in different senses, right? And sort of go from there. But the second thing is range gap percentage. What I mean by that is a stock or equity or entity or option, whatever it is, ETF, having a big move up or down. I don't want to trade something like, what's a good example? Walmart. I don't want to be trading Walmart when it trades like 0.2% during the day typically, or half a point up and down. It doesn't move much, right? I want stuff that's going to be able to move. I want to be able to grow an account through trades. So I want to be looking for things that can move fast to the upside, fast to the downside. And that could be small caps, med caps, that could be large caps, the options, right? Which is a little bit scary of a world, right? I want things that can go up or down quite quickly. And so when I'm looking for a day trade setup, I'm looking for the 5-minute candles or the 10-minute candles, 15-minute candles that are moving, 4, 5, 10, 15% up and down. Because for me, I could then take advantage of that percentage gap move and I can make trades based off of that, right? So I want to see things moving up and down because that's where you're going to get the most sort of bang for your buck when you're looking for a day trade scalp. And then I want to see which trend and direction it's going. Is it choppy? Is it going up 15, down 15, up 15? Then you want to say, okay, that's not a setup for me. If it's up 5, then the next candle's up 8, next candle's up 12, following candle's up 3, then it's down 3, then it's okay, is it still strong? Boom, we get a nice candle up 10. That's a trend you want to jump in on and take advantage of. So I'm looking for that. And then the third piece is sort of the technical analysis piece combined with the entry and exit. Don't take a trade, or I don't take a trade unless I clearly see the entry on the entry I want, right? And the exit I want. Don't just jump into something because you feel, oh my God, I have to trade. I haven't traded all day. This looks great. I'm going to just jump in. And I bet a ton of people listening in now, including myself, I've made that mistake hundreds of times over the years. I feel I need to just jump in or being something. The best trade, a lot of the times, the best traders in the world are the best trade is no trade. Okay? The goal is to keep those losses tight, manage your risk nicely, and keep your losses very small. You can lose 70% of the time on your trades. No one cares. Guess what? If you keep those losses really tight, but your 30% winners are winners and you let them run and you really nail your winners, you're going to be a huge profitable trader. You see all over social media, people are like, oh, I win 90% of my trades. First off, no, because you're probably the best trader in the world at that point. I mean, why are you not getting a medal for that? The best traders in the world are losing probably 30 to 40% of the time. And that's the best of the best. And so if you can keep your losses small, that's what really takes you from the next level of just a good trader to a great trader. And that's the hardest part. And I've had challenges with that over the years as well. But so when you look at the three sort of criteria, you have the liquidity component, the volume. You don't want to get into something that has no volume. You want to be able to get in and get out with ease. Right? Then you want the range gap. You want things that are moving up and down. And if it doesn't hit that, I say I don't want the trade. And then I want to match up the chart. Where can this stock go now? It's really gapping to the upside on news. It's trading a ton of volume. Where can I go in and get out? And so that's sort of where you bring the technical analysis piece. I'm going to give you guys examples of this so you can be like, okay, I understand now what he's saying. So I'm going to talk through just a couple examples, okay? INBS, I'm using just recent examples over the last couple of days. I did not trade any of these. I'm just sort of I didn't trade this one. I'm trying to give an example, right? So this was trading good. We go back to the 5-minute, right? At 9:30, this opens, has a nice cup of volume. I mean, 4.5 million shares, 5 million shares for a small cap stock, 3 million, 2 million, 2 million, 1 million, 2 million, right? So all day it's kind of consolidating, right? It's not dumping, going all the way down back to the 3s and 4s, right? It's sort of just holding. 4s, 5s, dumps, hold 4s, 5s, dumps. So it consolidates all day with a high of what? 520, 530-ish. So what happens at the end of the day around, looks like 1420, whatever it is, 120 or 220, 220. So what happens is, right, see this blue horizontal line? That is sort of where the high of the day was all day. It went up, it rejected. It went up to 520, 530, it rejected. So therefore, sellers are in control, right, when we talk about price action, at the 520 line, right? Shorts or sellers, however you want to word it. Third rejection, right? So every time at 520, it rejects. But guess what? At the end of the day, the buyers decide to break through the 520. You then get sellers or anyone who's shorted under 520 or 520, because that's the high of the day. The high of day breaks, which shows you now, okay, there's a lot of interest in this stock breaking out. It breaks out. And this is my big point in trading. If you missed the entire thing all day, which was kind of a snooze fest after it made its big gap up, cool. Guess what? You didn't even need to trade any of this nonsense. If you just got in once it broke the 520, 530, okay, you bought the 540 because it broke the high of days. 540 then ran to almost $7. And so that's a 20 to 30% interval move in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 40 minutes. That's a 30% possible move to make on this trade in 30 minutes, right? So you didn't have to do and deal with any of this. If you just played the technical breakout over 520, bang, you get all this potential upside. So we get the squeeze candle up, we get sort of the short saying, get me out, and then you finally get the major squeeze, from 560 all the way up into 690s. Right? And I have no idea what the news was here. I know nothing. I'm just literally looking at the price action and technicals. Okay. So that's a good example of positive price action if you're looking to long scalp a name on a day trade. Let's talk through if you are a short trader out there. If we have any short traders in the chat, I'll look later. If you guys are, this is your thing and you want to look at shorts. Okay. How do we identify a good short entry or a good short trade? Okay. Here's a stock, RR, I found from last week. I think it's down, 90% in the last 3 or 4 days. Let's look at, what the short looked like. So this looks like a liquidation. It starts liquidating around the 860s, has a big 17% gap down, then has another 14% gap down. That's a 31% move. And then it just, right? People start trickling in and the sellers continue to just pound this tape back, right? It finally bottoms out for about, 3 or 4 minutes. It gets a tiny cap bounce to 5s. As a short entry, you say, okay, no one's buying in here. It's still selling. I'm going to try and jump in at 5, maybe put my stop above this candle, like 520, 530. Okay, let's see if I can ride it down into the 4s. The next candle, bang, 12%. We get all the way down to 430. Next candle, 4%. Next candle, 1%. Okay, we bounce 10%. If you're still looking for a short entry, you could jump back in at the 450s, 460s. Let's see if it goes lower. Then 9%, then 12%. It's a 21% move, guys, in 10 minutes to the downside. So if you're a short, you're praying for these kind of moves because these are huge range gap percentages down, right? This is a 21% move in a 10-minute clip, right? So therefore, you can say, I'm going to jump in short. I make 5, 10, 15%, 20%, and I get out, right? And then when typically when I'm shorting, I always try to keep my stops very close to my entry. So therefore, if for whatever reason the short and the sell side dries up and buy side comes in, I could get stopped out and I can always re-enter the short at a higher place if it continues to go higher. But on the short, I want to keep my sort of entries running low to take advantage of the panic or fear that, or sell pressure that's sort of hitting that stock. Not only if you shorted in the 4s and the 5s up here, that wasn't it. We then got an end of day dump from the 3s, a 2, a 3, and a 7. That's a 10% move in 15 minutes. This closes at about, 330s, 340s. The next day, we open up, 9:30, trend continues down, and we go down again, 3, another 5, 8%. Now we're trading at 270s from 330s. So now you're down another 10 to 15%, and there is no sign that the stock recovered over 3 to 330s, right? You always want to look at the previous day. The previous day close was 330. So if it was a strong buy side, you would say 330 get bleed out. It closes above 330. That would be bullish for that stock after this terrible sell down day. But no, trend continues. We go out another day. So 2 days after the 80% fall, sellers continuing to smash this tape. So if you're short, now we're down at 220s from short at 4s and 5s, right? After a 2 or 3 day downfall, typically it's always nice to cover into the weakness. That's typically what I'd like to cover if I'm multi-day. I don't like to multi-day short. I really like, as I mentioned, try to just short for some big range percentage gaps here, get in and get out. I don't like to risk capital overnight ever on the long or short side, but just showing you the trend of what a short a trade setup would look like. And that applies to med caps, large cap options, right? If something's really strong to one direction, that's when your trade and conviction could be really strong, and that's when you can take advantage of a real trend and make some good percentage gains. So that was sort of two totally different examples of sort of what I'm looking for, and then the example of sort of positive and bearish price action. I could do maybe a couple other examples. Let me quickly look from a swing perspective. Let me just quickly look at my notes. I had a couple tickers just from an example. Here we go. And then I'll talk through earnings real quick. So let's do this. So like from a different example, like Fun. So Fun's a weird one. I mean, look at this daily chart, guys. Like it's a total penny stock, right? Look, 1.6 billion shares, 430%, 500 million shares, 600 million shares, 500 million shares, 775 million shares, 500 million shares. I mean, this thing's averaging like probably 750 million shares a day, right? And what's happening is actually it looks like a cup and handle forming on the daily chart. I mean, you would expect this to have a 500% gap up and then just trickle down back to the 0.2s, 0.12s, 0.13s, 0.14s, but it's actually holding this entire upper band. Like, look at this. So like, I know nothing about the news, the stock, any offer. I know nothing. I'm just looking at the technicals here and like, oh my goodness, like it's trending above all its bullish trend lines. So just from a chart perspective here, like this is going to be a top watch for me this week because of the action. Do you guys see this action? So like maybe this week it tries to go for the 0.40s again. I have no idea, but I'm just looking at the technicals here. So that would be a bullish price action standpoint. If it gets rejected down, we start seeing 0.26. If I enter, maybe my stop would be like 0.28, right? Like, so like there's a ton of opportunity in here. Like that's what a bullish swing would look like. Bullish price action on a multi-day level would look like, excuse me. So hopefully this is helpful. I'll check the comments. If you have any questions on this, let's do some Q&A after. Just going to quickly, briefly, 41 minutes in, I have about 2 more minutes till Q&A. I'm going to quickly touch on some of the earnings plays, but if this is helpful, definitely write in the comment section on the right. And then I'll quickly get to that. Almaine, Parker, Storm. I'll try and answer everyone's questions at the end, and then let's chat on the side in the comments and let's do some stuff. So let's see this. Let's go back. I want to show you guys just quickly, if you guys are large cap traders, some of the things I'm looking at options trading. Or just equity trading alone. So we have some big earnings this week, guys. Another big slate here. We have McDonald's, onsemi, Caterpillar tomorrow morning. Got some big sort of industrial manufacturing names. We have a big consumer sort of consumer name. You have McDonald's, you have onsemi, and then we have Palantir, PLTR, defense, sort of AI. So I want to see if that AI trend comes back into play. The PLTR chart actually doesn't look amazing. It doesn't look great though. But the last earnings on PLTR at a 20% plus gap up. So definitely something to keep an eye on, PLTR. So that's after close tomorrow. Then we have Eli Lilly before market open. This has been one of the best performing stocks in the last 2 years. They have the weight loss Ozempic drug. So keep an eye on that ticker. That's LLY. They report before Tuesday market. Spotify, many know the sort of music. I'm sure everyone listens to that, headphones, Bluetooth, all that stuff, connections. Spotify is, I think, just a clear winner in the space. Apple Music is okay. This is just briefly my opinion. I love using Spotify as a consumer, so I do love the name. They had a nice a couple quarters, 2 quarters ago, so definitely interested to see how they do. It's a subscription-based company. They have Snapchat. You have Enphase Energy. One of my favorite 2 here for the week, though, actually favorite 3, are on Wednesday. Alibaba, BABA, China sentiment is at a multi-decade low. There is some craziness going on over there in China. Some of these stocks have not been this cheap since before their IPOs over 12 to 15 years ago. The Alibaba CEO just purchased $50 million worth of shares. I believe that was last week or the week before last week. Uber. You have Uber. They have been on an absolute tear. I actually think they're going to have another big beat here, and they're going to surprise people even to the upside. So I am liking Uber. Roblox, I think they're going to struggle. I think video game makers have struggled a bit, so I will be watching Roblox. ARM is a recently IPO chip name to keep an eye on. This one right here. Spirit Airlines deal fell through with JetBlue. This is sort of like one of those, if the deal doesn't get done, could be a bankrupt, needs to raise capital play. You're going to see a lot of volatility. I would stay away from the options probably because the implied volatility is probably going to be 200-300%. So you would need like a 30% move just to make any type of sort of coin on that. So I'd be sort of a stay away from this name. Pinterest, another one I like on a long-term level. I'm liking that. And then Affirm, same thing. It's probably going to move just as much as Spirit does, up 10 or 15%, 20%, with a high implied volatility. And then you have Canopy Growth, which is sort of a spec name for me, just to get a read of sort of where the marijuana and all that stuff is taken place. It could be sort of a year for them. And they haven't, these marijuana names have traded terribly since 2018. So they're sort of all at around 5-year lows. So I want to see if maybe you can sort of get a bounce bid after earnings on these. So I'm watching that name before Friday. Yeah, so these are some of the earning names I'll be focused on from a large cap perspective this week. Hopefully that's helpful. But I am going to jump into now at 4:45. I did a really good job of sort of racing through this presentation to the minute here. I hope I didn't sort of run through this too quickly where folks are like, I can't understand anything he's saying. But happy to jump into the comment section on the right side. Was this helpful? Was this not helpful? Was there other things you guys would like to see? I tried to pick some topics that would be really helpful to all of our new traders. Before I jump into any questions and Q&A that you guys have for me or just in general, we do have a Spud Zone. We do have a Spud Zone community, Discord community. You can see the link in the bio. I will post that. We have equity and options trading floors. We have thousands of members. We've been around for 4 or 5 years. It is an awesome community. Tens of thousands of eyes daily on the market. I love it. It's a great community. Feel free to check us out. We are doing our first ever 14-day free trial, so you could check us out in the Spud Zone chat. Anything else, obviously post some Q&A here on the site, and I'll try and jump into some things, and I'll read the chat as well. So Sunny Gadget Reviews, will this be recorded? Yes, this is a recorded session. You can go check it out on the YouTube. So you can definitely check it out for some, anything you want to clarify. I'll look through some questions. Sam Wolf, we have this live available later for rewatching. Yes, sir, Sam. I will have it in case you're looking to ask any more questions or take some notes. Michael Leavitt, when you mentioned as an example of how you saw 5 million shares trade at $1, where are you looking to see that? Good question, Michael Leavitt. So let me go back to sort of this post here, just for an example. I'm trying to even think of a stock that's at $1. It doesn't even matter. So for example, I would see it in the candlestick charts. So how I have my charts sort of separated here, right? I have a 5 minute, it's such a long, I'm having a brain fart here. 5 minutes, right? Candlesticks. So these are all candlesticks. So this would be a 30 minute. This would be an hour. This would be 1 minute. This would be 5 minutes. So where I see that, right? See these big bars here? Right, so these would be the volume bars, 6 million, 2 million, and this is the volume being traded in this amount of time, Michael. So 5 minutes, on this 5 minute cycle down, you've had 2.5 million shares. So that shows you that there's either, in this case, a 2.5 million share seller, then followed by a 3.9 million seller, down another percent, right? So volume's down, then you get a big flag back up for 3%. At 2.5 million shares. So you're seeing, okay, whoa, there's been a lot of buy side excitement in this 32 to 33 zone, so that's sort of where, and guess what? That's where it bottomed that day in that area. See, so there was a ton of buy side interest down in here, huge gap up candle saying, okay, there's no more sellers interested at that level. And then we sort of even bounced off that level again. So that's what I mean by like, if 5 million, that was my example for price action. Like, whoa, like where are the shares being bought and sold? There wasn't many being sold down here, but there was a ton being bought, hence the huge gap flag. And then you had sort of it bounce again, trickle bounce, trickle off. So that's what I mean by sort of the price action. I hope that's helpful. That was more easy to clarify. Definitely right on the side, Michael, if it was or was not. Let's get into Storm's question. Volume indicators, PRB. I don't really use a ton of indicators, as I mentioned in the first part of the session. I really stick to VWAP intraday. Are things trading above VWAP or below VWAP? And that's sort of how I dictate if something's strong or not. And then I see the dollars being traded, the volume, the liquidity in the name. And then I either decide to trade it or not. And sort of that's what I'll stick around. Hopefully that's helpful. Excuse me. Just quickly grab some water here. Maine Parker. Hey, Spud, you should do a series on how to read a chart. I'm a beginner, but I have no clue what you're saying or these terms. I tried to do this from a beginning standpoint. I hope it was helpful. I tried to sort of go back in it and sort of dummy it down for anyone who's like, okay, I know nothing about nothing with trading. So I may have talked too fast. Definitely try and rewatch the session. If you still have questions, tag me online, social, StockTwits, Webull, or here in Discord community. Happy to help. But you sort of that's happy to do another series too for beginners. Amen. I would go back to, if I'm pronouncing your name right, I would go back to my YouTube channel. I have a ton of beginning videos over the years. So you can see under the live section on Spud Zone channel, you'll see a ton of those videos. I've had hundreds and thousands of great comments on them. So definitely go check them out, and with a notepad, and you'll probably learn a ton there. Sonny's Garage Reviews, talking about Tesla leaps. Okay. They're down 99% already. I haven't been trading Tesla or any of the options, but the EV and sort of battery and sort of solar energy names have been absolutely demolished. Just from buying side interest, fears that Trump and presidency, all those tax revisions may go away from the Biden side. So there's trading on a lot of stuff. I don't love the trade. I don't love the trend. The trend has been down for a while, so it's tough to maybe find a bottom on it. It's sort of a sector kind of staying away from the trade. Storm, Horse Marnies, Tree, a good short. I'm not going to go into specific equities and kind of go waste time for other members here or other people dialing in whether something's a good long or short based on the chart. Obviously you have to check the chart and see what your trading style is. View on Tesla. I guess there's a couple of views here on the Tesla. I'll jump into, I guess, Tesla since there's been multiple people asking for it. I can just quickly check us out on technical trading here on Tesla. Let's look at the weekly chart first. So weekly is just a full-on downtrend. Once it broke my blue lines, and these are blue lines that I probably have had for the last 12 to 18 months. So it's really nice when I could just see things clearly break down. So we're breaking down below trend line. It looks like Tesla kind of wants to fill that maybe 170 gap. It hasn't got there yet. But if we get below 185, we have a nice washout to sort of the 168, 175 levels. And then I think we probably bounce from there. I'd be looking to be a long trader if we could get down to the 170 washouts. I don't think you're going to get to 100 again. That was like a full-on panic washout. But if you could get down and negative into the 170s, I'd look at like a 200 leap a year out. That would be pretty enticing for me. That would be like a 20 to 25% upside off the 170 mark. I just think there's some money here maybe that still wants out, some sellers that still wants out. These big red candles kind of scare me. I haven't seen a green candle. Just last week alone, the week before last week was a 13% down candle. And then last week was just a +2. So like it didn't really bounce much. If this week we get a down 5, like I'd be looking to maybe be a buyer off that just for a trade setup alone. Or maybe we get a trickle back up to the 190, 200 level. Then it looks like it wants to recover a bit. So I'd see how it trades this week, this important week for the stock, and see how it looks this week. Does it trickle down 3 or 4 or 5%, or do we sort of hold and sort of trickle up 1 or 2% again and try and recover that big red candle? So that's how I'd look at Tesla, just from a technical standpoint. I hope that's helpful. What else we got? Mike Jones, what's your thoughts on Lilly? Over the last 6 weeks, I noticed a lot of insiders selling. Yeah, I've seen a ton of insiders selling on Lilly over the tape within our data analytics bot and suite. Lilly's a tough one. I think also the reasons a lot of the insiders have been selling is just due to like different options expiration. So they're allowed to, probably for some compensation plans, you're allowed to sell shares at X dates. And the stock's up, 40, 50, 60, 70%. So it's probably just, different folks within the company sort of taking some profits off the table because of the large gap up and sort of the timeline where they're willing to sell. It's not huge insider money. It's only, 5 million plus. If it was, hundreds of millions, I would say, interesting standpoint. But yeah, I'm going to be watching the earnings. I may even take a strangle on it in case it, drops 4 or 5% or goes up 5%. It has been on an absolute tear, so it's rallying hard into the earnings print. So maybe it does nothing. I don't know. But LOI is definitely one of my top watches for the week. Michael, leave it. Good. I'm glad that helped. Brian Stanton, are you using Unusual Whales? And if so, how does that influence your trades? I do not. I follow Unusual Whales. I do not use their data to give myself any conviction on trades. We have on-suite data bots through Tradeics with insider buying and selling, and then we also have some golden sweep spots, which gives us some of the whale sort of action in the options landscape and marketplace. So we have some of that data coming in daily. So that's the data analytics I use right now that our community uses. Unusual Whales is great. They do a great job. I'm just not into the whole all those representatives, politics and all that stuff. I'm not really following what they're trading or folks are trading. I know that's sort of a big thing on social media. I'm just following price action. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this clip and film, I trade on where things are sort of being traded on a daily level. So if there's a lot of selling, a lot of buying taking place, I'm just trying to take advantage of some of those moves and trends. I don't really try and get into. I try and stay super focused, if that makes sense. What do you think about AMAT? It's part of the CHIPS complex. It's had a great run. I don't know where it goes. Sunny's great. Amin great. You obviously use the MACD as well. That's also an indicator. Yeah, I have the MACD on for a lot of things, but I don't use it that often. But I have it there, so I don't really use too many indicators, as I mentioned. I have the MACD there. I'm not using it though to sort of base my criteria or sort of edge on a trade through that. But any other questions, guys, shoot them. I think I've went through the whole entire chat here, and I've tried to answer as many as I could. I got another couple minutes here. If you guys still have some questions, I'll stick around for another 30 seconds here. If no questions do come in, obviously you could check out our Spud Zone community. We have thousands of members. You could check us out. Tons of great content like this. We have an options team, an equity team, so you obviously could check that out, ask more questions. As I mentioned, we are doing a 14-day free trial there, first ever in the last 4 years. So you could definitely check us out there. But I really hope this session was helpful, guys. I spend a lot of hours and prep time to help new traders over the years and just get a sense of sort of bettering and sharpening up your skill sets. We all have downside trends. We've all blown accounts. We've all had bad trading months or years. But it's really important to stay focused and sort of excel in the longer time frame, right? So I always try and do that. I always try and help folks, and that's what I'm going to continue to do as best as I can, given the time that I have. Let's see, some questions coming in now. Chaos XGR, what do you think of the Microsoft chart? I'm not going to jump into charts, but all those mega cap tech names have had some really serious upside charts. It's at all-time highs. It's part of the NVIDIA AI hype. Obviously be careful with names that are trading so high so quickly. I mean, there was a period of 10 years, Microsoft was crushing earnings and it didn't even move for like 10 years. So now it's just full gap mode. So obviously you have to be careful with these big runs. Will the chip pipe be over soon or to the moon? Sonny's Gadget Reviews. I don't know. I think it's really going to depend on NVIDIA's earnings coming in. And if they give any sign of like, okay, the over ordering slowing down and, we're going to start to see things finally come back to normal. And, for us, like maybe if they start to say something like that, maybe the chip top is in. If they say, we can't keep up with orders and things are crazy, then I think the chip stuff continues to go crazy. How do you find great swing plays like you did on INTC, Mike Jones? Mike, there's rarely an opportunity that I've seen over the last 4 or 5 years trading that when you get one of the largest companies in the world to go down 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% to like a decade low level, it's almost where you have to look at it as a long-term opportunity. So like when Intel hit that 25 level and everyone on TV was saying it was terrible, same with Meta. Meta hit 90 on TV and Jim Cramer was crying on TV, literally crying. I don't think I've ever seen that before. He was emotionally upset about Meta at $90 a share, and Meta is now close to $500 a share 2.5 years later. So you don't really know how cheap things can get. But from a long-term basis, if you like the company, Intel's one of the biggest chip providers in the world and processing chips. I mean, they're incredible. They don't have, as much as AI stuff via NVIDIA and all that, but, they're a huge chip. They're in a lot of laptops and everything else, phones, etc. So, I mean, there's a huge opportunity when things got so cheap. So if that was a name that got really cheap, the PE got really cheap. For example, same thing. Everyone hates China right now. I mean, is it uninvestable? Probably. Is there certain names there that are like absolutely on fire sale? I mean, look at Alibaba. Alibaba does $30 billion in revenue a quarter. I mean, billions of dollars. It's doing, it's trading below its IPO price 10, 12 years ago. I mean, it's actually crazy. And the revenues have, hundreds of folded higher than where they were during IPO. I mean, does that mean China's done growing? Who knows? I'm just saying from an example of how cheap things can really get, right? In 2008, things got really cheap. In COVID, things got really cheap. Right now, we're probably on the opposite. Things are really expensive for a lot of pieces, right? But there's still a lot of equities out there that are like very cheap. So those are the names I look for when I'm looking at a, 3, 5, 6 year horizon where you could put a couple sort of, a couple bucks or a couple capital into and hope that, things rebound and sort of go up as quick as they did. So that's how I look for sort of long trade ideas. I'm not long really the market here though. I'm pretty conservative, and I want to see where things go in the next few months. What else we got? Hopefully that was a good answer, Mike. Those are like a good washout long perspective. Looks like everyone's enjoying this session. David Kara, Stock Holo. I'm not going to go into the specific stocks for charts, just so I don't want to waste 50, 60, 70 people's time. We're in chat still. But yeah, I think I'm going to cut it out here, guys. It's 5 p.m. We've done a full hour, did 45 minutes plus 15 minutes. If you guys love these sessions, just like them in the comments. As I said, I do spend hours of time prepping for them. So I do want folks to get and benefit a lot from this. I will happily do other videos coming up. This is the first time I've done a video in a few months. Life has been pretty busy on my end, but everything else, you can see within our Discord server. Everyone's here daily. We're reading the markets, analyzing the markets. So feel free to jump in, check some stuff out. Some great traders, awesome like-minded people, non-toxic environment, just great. So happy to check that out. Please like and subscribe here below, and we will get some more videos out there shortly. And everyone have a great rest of their weekend. Seeing a lot of comments on the side that everyone really appreciated. So that's awesome. I love hearing that. And, go out and sort of crush it this year, guys. Don't let anyone stop you. Don't get all fooled up in the social media and all that stuff. Just focus on, your conviction and your edge and your sort of your trading style. And, things will come to you. So, good luck this year. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And, best of luck. And, we'll chat soon. Spud Zone out.